On Monday, October 6th, the 51,000 workers of the Alberta Teachers Association went on strike. The last few decades have seen Alberta teachers go from the best paid in the country to the worst. We see consistent wage erosion and depletion of funding to go to private schools instead. Classroom sizes are ballooning out of control. Teachers are constantly overburdened, overwhelmed, underpaid, and subject to horrible conditions. Teachers can't take this any longer. And the fact that they voted down 2 bad contracts from the provincial government and 95% in favor of striking shows this. And the vast majority of working Albertans stand behind them. 18,000 people rallied around legislature grounds on Sunday in support of the fight for education in Alberta. And we also saw that the Alberta Common Front, which is an alliance of over 30 public sector unions in Alberta, pledged their support. In response to this, the Smith government has pulled out all the stops in an attempt to crush the strike. On Tuesday, they locked the teachers out, and they've also offered to pay $30 a month for parents to enroll their children into online private schools, which is essentially a form of online scamming. And this, alongside the federal government's attacks on the postal workers, make it clear that the entire Canadian establishment aims to break the backs of the labor movement. And what this means is that the only way to win the struggle for the teachers is to force Danielle Smith's government to back down with militant strike action. If there's no clear and concrete plan for pickets or escalation, the Smith government will simply wait out the strike. And so, in order to maintain the pressure, the ATA needs to set up hard picket lines outside of schools and sustain these with strike pay for all the unionized workers. The huge amount of support we've seen for the teachers' strike makes a public strike fund both entirely possible and entirely necessary. And with all of this, we need to be ready to overcome any maneuvers that the provincial government will use in order to smash the strike. The most recent strike of the Air Canada workers shows that faced with the determined and organized movement of workers with a willingness to fight, the threats of legal action and Section 107 basically amount to empty words and threats. So the union must be prepared to defy back-to-work legislation and to defend the right to strike. And to do this, it cannot be isolated. Danielle Smith and the rest of the Canadian government have made their intentions very clear. After they defeat one union, they will come for the rest. So the precedent for the labor struggle in Alberta will be set with the teachers, whether we win or lose. In its solidarity statement, the Common Front declares to the Smith government that if you take on one of us, you're taking on all of us. And this is a correct statement, but this must be followed up with action. The EAs have already refused to be used as scabs, but solidarity strike action must be taken up by the Common Front unions and all the unions in Alberta. Whether this means mobilizing workers to support the picket lines, sympathy strikes, collecting strike funds, or solidarity rallies, only the combined and organized forces of the labor movement have the ability to beat back Danielle Smith. The attacks on unions and the working class as a whole will only ramp up in the coming months, both in the province and all across the country. We're being forced to pay for the shrinking economy and the debts of the Canadian government with austerity and cuts. The Alberta teachers and the Canadian postal workers are only the beginning of this struggle. To learn more about how we can bring back the revolutionary traditions and methods of the labor movement to bring victory to the Albertan teachers and all Canadian workers, check out our most recent article on marxist.ca, which will be linked below, and join the Revolutionary Communist Party.